Hello everybody. Now that you've watched the video on how to roll a slab, I want to show you how to use our molds that we have here to drape your project over top of that and be able to make your feet, so you have kind of the base for your project. So I'm going to angle the camera down so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay, so first off I have this. Some of them have this little hanger on here because it does make it a little bit easier to take apart. If you do have that, I'm going to flatten that down and be able to set that down so it's relatively flat with your project. Now I'm going to have my slab piece here. More than likely you'll have an issue with this not fully draping over top of that, so make sure you how to kind of fix it, and then we'll kind of seal the inside a little bit as well. So you'll have this, and first thing is I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make sure that one side is pretty well against that area. I'm going to slide this over a little bit more because I want to be able to use this on this other side. And then I'm going to just kind of start carefully folding and molding this around the piece as a whole. And I'm going to go grab some water and one of my tools. And I have a few tools I'm going to use. I have two different kinds of ribs just because I'm not quite sure which I'm going to be using, but I have our metal rib and a rubber rib. Remember, all the tools that we have are in that small drawers of a cabinet we have over there. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to give myself, kind of a little bit of a wide berth right now and go around this outside edge. And I'm going to turn this, and you're going to see that I still have this opening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rest of the slab and I'm just going to attach that onto it. I'm going to get right up along this seam line. I'm going to definitely overlap it. And I just want to meld these two together. And I don't have to worry about slipping and scoring because they're exactly the same thing. They're both very moldable. I'm not going to have an issue with it. So we should be fine. Okay. Now I'm going to again go around the outside edge. And you will have a line inside the bowl, but I'm going to show you how to kind of heal that up kind of in the next demonstration here. Okay, I'm just going to go around. I'm going to cut all the other excess off. It's just another way of making pottery. Okay, so I'm going to take my rubber rib and I want to smooth the hole outside here. So I'm just going to kind of dip that in water. I'm going to bend this a little bit to kind of the curve of the bowl and just smooth this all out. Especially those areas that I had to add that extra section. Again, I'm kind of curving that, just putting the thumb down there and just kind of moving this around. I'm going to take my sponge. And just kind of smooth this entire thing out. Okay. Trying to make sure that I don't get it too wet. But I'm also pressing because I do want to try to get this to form nicely around the bowl itself. Okay, once this is made, you need to have feet that go on here, so when you set your project up, it's not just setting on this flat surface. And there's two ways that you can do it. One is that we can roll a coil, and the other way is that we can actually sculpt some feet. So I'm going to kind of show you both methods. And And there's always variations with each method. So the first one is I'm just gonna use this surface. Remember, we have other tabletop ones that you can kind of do over at your spot. We leave this table here so people can wedge their clay, so we typically don't have anybody working over here. But I could just roll a coil and then create, a circle, like this. I'm gonna spend some more time on it and then go in and then smooth off the inside, making sure that this is welded really nicely along the inside of here. This is definitely a very common way of doing it. And there's variations with this, because what I could do is I could have like a half circle here and like another half circle on this side. And that would be fine. I could almost break it into threes instead. So there are variations with that. The second way is to actually create feet. And then what I would do on that one is that you create these clay balls, and you want to make all 3 of them or 4 of them ahead of time, because you want to try to get them as close as you possibly can get them. Okay. And if they're not the right size, then they just don't work out as well. Like this one right here is a little on the smaller side compared to the rest of them. But just for a demonstration purpose, you could do the 3. I could get 4 in here and make another one up. It's however you want to kind of play with that side of it. And if this is what you wanted to do, you kind of do the same thing, is that you're just going to take your finger and you're just going to kind of use your fingernail, and you're just going to really try to work that clay into the body itself. And use one of those wood shapers. I'm going to go grab one. So I'm going to grab this wood shaper and use that, because your fingers aren't always the most nimble things in the world to get that. And then you just have those right there. Once those are in, the other way that you could do the feet is that you actually can make them like feet, like maybe like a claw. Is that you might want to attach these all 4 first, make sure they're a little bit larger, but then go in. I might kind of flatten this out and actually have it, jet out a little bit. And I'll kind of tilt it so you can kind of see what I'm showing. So that versus this, you could play around with that. You could even kind of sculpt ahead of time and actually kind of like put a, like a knee in it. This is not going to be very good, sorry. But something like that. Well, then you would attach that, and you'd have the same kind of thing. So, and then the feet are all going in opposite, in opposite directions, trying to support that the best that it can. Okay. Once those feet are on there, so you got to pretend right now, because I'm going to flip it, is you are going to flip this over, and you're gonna pull this out right away, because it should be able to handle its shape. Now, sometimes it is nice if you can let it sit, but if you let it sit too long, it actually cracks off of the project as a whole. Okay, so here's the project for you to kind of be able to kind of work with, and I want you to. Here's a project that you can start working with. Now, you want to heal, this area right in there that you can see pretty good. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to use this rib. I'm going to support the outside of it. Going with this. This is where if the rib that you have is too flimsy, you might have to switch to the metal one or grab one of these black ones. And just heal that line up right away. Take my sponge. Again, using my hand to support that. I'm going to have that all cleaned up. Okay? Now, inside this area here is where you're going to be putting your design. So you don't want your clay super soft, but you don't want it really hard. But as part of your design, you need to pay attention to the lip here, and you need to consider that within the first few days of you actually working on it. Your lip could be perfectly perfectly round, or maybe even want to kind of create a jagged edge on there. Either one is kind of acceptable. Now you should, when you put it on here, you should actually see a little bit of a line, because as you kind of force that in there, you can kind of see that indent. And that's an easy thing to follow with your tool to get that nice clean line. So I'm going to go in, follow that dent. Take my sponge, clean that roughness off of it. And just get this into, a shape that you really, really like, okay? Okay, now that I have my top up here is all cut and nice and straight, there is another alternative way that you could do it, which is taking, again, your needle tool and going in and even creating like a wave design along this entire area. So this one I already carved out. I still have the other side that I can kind of play around with, but there are just lots of things you could do. Another thing that you could also do is, like, I don't know if anybody that's like into like knitting or with yarn, is I could go in, carve down, create this hook shape, back again, and cut this out. Now I'd want to obviously clean that whole area up, but what's kind of cool about this shape is that you could have a ball of yarn inside of here, and then the yarn string comes out, so then as you're knitting, it stays in here and it just kind of tumbles in place. So that's a possibility. You could try to go around here and even think of like a word that you could almost try to carve out, and actually carve out some of the top layers along with that. The most common one is just to leave it alone, but this is kind of the second common. This is kind of a unique idea, and it's just, and again, if you have an idea, you can always kind of run with it. And even at this point, like, I could take some clay and I could roll it, and I could even kind of build up, another area with it, and just make sure that I smooth it all the way down. So I could even try to elevate a section of this entire bowl here, and then you're good to go with it. So lots of options. It's just kind of up to you and what you want to do. Again, we're going to take the inside here. You're going to have a drawing of an idea that you'll carve out that area. We leave the outside blank. We make sure that this stays, relatively, not bone dry, but kind of at a leather hard stage, so we can start carving it. So again, if you have any questions, make sure that you ask, and otherwise, good luck on the project. Thanks.